Debating the best and worst deals of NBA free agency. Each year, the wave of leaves the league looking different in its wake. This year, but the biggest deals aren't always the ones that are most intriguing. With so much action, to keep up with all the movement, follow our end washer. This is going to sound extremely nerdy, but my favorite deal was a few weeks ago, when Golden State lost Game 6 and we were looking around dumbfounded and wondering whether the Warriors would even make the playoffs next year. Obviously, those concerns were later compounded on night 1 of free agency when news broke that the Warriors would be acquiring that Russell deal made sense. Instead of losing KD for nothing, they get a 23-year-old with high upside to help, either on the court or in subsequent trades, but it meant Golden State would be hard-capped, leaving the team with even less room to potentially sign Looney. And then, the Warriors looked like they were dead, or would at least be dormant for the next 12 months. Now, Rob Mahoney, 8's not the biggest signing or the best value, but Philadelphia gets points for creativity with once Jimmy Butler decided to skip town. The Sixers did well to recoup Josh Richardson via sign and trade. Then, with the Matt Dollinger other deals will have bigger impacts on the outcomes of basketball games, but there are 2 deals in particular that will have an even greater impact on the world: Brook and Robin Lopez joining forces and signing deals in Milwaukee. Finally, the De'Anthony Prince Ano move stands to shake up the NBA quite like after he suffered a brutal Achilles tear. I thought he might be content to rehab in San Francisco and figure out free agency next year on 2 healthy legs. Durant obvious, Gerald Harris it's KD to the Nets. The move changes the Michael Shapiro is a perfect addition for Alvin Gentry and the young Pelicans. The former Sixers, sharp. There have been a handful of compelling candidates here, but my worst deal winner goes to the entire Blazers offseason. Keeping Al Farouq, the Whiteside deal could work fine, but to me it signifies a front office that has run out ideas as it reshuffles the deck a year after being swept out of the conference finals. There were other teams. Mahoney. Reasonable people can disagree on basketball talent, but I am not sure I quite understand the premise that would lead a team Levin, one desperate for a point guard. What was Charlotte's rush? The Hornets just Dollinger. 8's tempting to dedicate this space to the Phoenix Suns, who have gone out of their way to submit a severe eliminations for consideration this summer. But the Suns don't. Prince 8 was a bit of a surprise but he clearly knew what awaited him in free agency. 4 years, $88 million. Barnes averaged. Harris. I seriously don't understand what the Magic are doing. Nikola Vucevic. Shapiro shelling out $58 million for Terry Rozier isn't exactly a prudent way for the Hornets to save face after letting Rozier is a middling point guard in a league filled with them, demanding plenty of shots even at the expense of his teammates. Rozier will get his related slideshow 2019 NBA offseason moves provided by Emane.
Raindrop, drop top smoking, no cooking the hot pot. Fucking on your bitch, yeah, that. Looking up, open the park pot.